They worked in silence, speaking only in numbers and letters. Their mission was so secret, they weren't even supposed to tell their family what they were doing. They were codebreakers and their work would change the world. This is the secret origin of the Voyager Golden Record. It all started in 1938 when German leaders began encrypting their secret messages using something called the Enigma machine. This machine was like a fancy typewriter that could scramble your message into a nearly unbreakable code. You see, every letter on the keyboard was connected to a whole bunch of wires that led to a big circular thing called a drum. Inside the drum were a bunch of electrical contacts arranged in a circle. But the order of the contacts was constantly changing. Like imagine if the keys on your keyboard randomly rearranged themselves every time you type something. That'd be pretty annoying, right? But it was this constant change that made Enigma so powerful because it meant that each time you typed a letter, out came a totally random character. This way, spies couldn't just listen in and figure out what you were saying. The messages were scrambled. Now, the Nazis were super proud of Enigma, and they thought it was absolutely unbreakable. They sent coded messages about their plans across Europe and no one could understand them. That was until one man named Alan Turing. Alan was a genius mathematician who worked at Britain's top secret code-breaking center called Bletchley Park. He had this idea that maybe, just maybe, you could build a machine to crack Enigma. Now, building a machine to break another machine was nothing new. For centuries, people had been making cipher machines, gadgets that could turn your plain text into secret codes. But what made Turing's idea so cool was that he wanted to build a machine that could do the opposite. He came up with a design for something called a bomb, which was basically an early computer that could quickly test thousands of possible encryption settings. Historians say that this machine helped crack the Enigma code and shorten World War II by 2 years. So, no big deal. The story of Alan Turing and the codebreakers at Bletchley Park is seriously fascinating. In the beginning, they had to manually type in each letter and then wait for the machine to crunch some numbers. But later, they set up teletypewriters that could automatically send messages back and forth. With these machines, they could test hundreds of potential solutions in just hours instead of days. When they found a match, the teletypewriter would print out the correct letter for that setting. Then they could plug those letters together to see the real message. It was like solving a giant puzzle. But instead of pictures, they were dealing with secret military codes. But here's the crazy part. These codebreakers were working in absolute secrecy. They couldn't even tell their families what they were up to. If anyone outside the project learned that they were breaking Enigma, it could have all been for nothing. And get this, they didn't even use electricity to power their machines. They were so worried about the electromagnetic signals being intercepted that they hand-cranked the generators that powered their whole operation. Talk about going the extra mile. So let me ask you this. Why do you think they went to such great lengths to keep their work secret? Well, you might have heard of the Manhattan Project, the secret effort to develop the first atomic bomb. Well, the work done at Bletchley Park was just as top secret. By breaking the enemy's codes, they were able to send coded messages of their own. Like the plans for D-Day, the Allied invasion of France that marked a turning point in the war. Keeping their work secret helped ensure that their messages didn't fall into the wrong hands. It was a race against time, and they weren't about to lose it. It took the codebreakers at Bletchley Park years to master the art of cracking Enigma. At first, they could only decode about one message per day. But as they got better and better, they were decoding dozens of messages every hour. In total, historians say that the British government spent more than £20 million to develop and operate the bomb. That's equivalent to more than £600 million today. And they decoded over 30,000 messages during the war. But here's the funny thing. Almost no one knew about their work until decades later. After the war ended, the British government kept the project top secret. They didn't want anyone to know how they cracked Enigma, especially the Soviets, who had captured plenty of Enigma machines. By keeping it a secret, they protected their own security and intelligence. So you might be wondering, What happened to Alan Turing after the war? Well, he continued to work in code breaking, but soon he was accused of something shocking: homosexuality. Back in the 1950s, this was a crime in Britain and Turing was forced to retire from government service. Sadly, he took his own life 2 years later at the age of 54. But here's the good news. In 2013, the British government apologized for Turing's treatment, and in 2019, he was pardoned. Finally, his legacy was being recognized. Okay, now let's talk about the weird thing that happened next. As you probably noticed, we haven't mentioned the Voyager Golden Record yet. So here's the connection. In the 1970s, NASA wanted to include some special items on the Voyager spacecraft that humans would leave behind as a message to any alien civilizations out there. They had a few ideas, like a copy of Charlie Chaplin's movie Modern Times or a recording of greetings in different languages. But then someone had the idea to include a record with sounds and images that showed what life was like on Earth. They called it the Voyager Golden Record. And here's where things get weird. They needed a way to protect the record from scratches and other damage as it traveled through space. So they put it inside a special container along with some copper foil, a vacuum cleaner, and a thermal blanket. It was kind of like a little spaceship inside a spaceship. But then they ran into a problem. They couldn't open the container once it was sealed. So they decided to make it airtight and leave it unopened until Voyager reached its destination. Yeah, that's right. This record has been sitting unopened for over 50 years waiting for aliens to find it. Anyway, the folks at NASA reached out to experts in cryptography, the science of keeping secrets and hiding messages. They wanted to make sure that the record would be easy for aliens to understand. And guess who they called first? You guessed it, the people from Bletchley Park. By now they had retired from their top secret work, but NASA still wanted their help. Now we don't know exactly what they did since the details are still classified, but we do know that they created a special system of symbols and sounds that could be easily decoded by an alien civilization. On the record, there are 115 images of things like babies, animals, and everyday objects alongside 55 different sounds including music, laughter, and greetings in different languages. All of this was carefully designed to show aliens what life is like on Earth. So can you imagine finding the Voyager Golden Record light years away from Earth? What do you think aliens would think of our humble planet? Let us know in the comments below. Now we gonna wrap things up, but not before giving a huge shout out to our sponsor Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform with thousands of lessons in math, science, and computer science. Whether you're interested in artificial intelligence, astrophysics, or data analysis, Brilliant has a course for you. What sets Brilliant apart is that they teach complex topics in a fun and interactive way. Instead of boring lectures, you'll solve puzzles, play games, and explore concepts with hands-on activities. Plus, with new lessons added monthly, you'll always have fresh content to explore. Thanks for watching and joining us on this journey through history's hidden heroes. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an adventure. And if you're feeling extra generous, why not share this video with your friends? Who knows? You might just inspire the next generation of curious minds.